Snack party. Alrighty. Okay, oh, sorry guys, we already did this yesterday, yes?
Yes.
Okay, we did that yesterday. Another class did not. Okay, today we are starting to talk about economic choices. Okay? Economic choices. How do we make the decisions that we make? And as an economist, I will argue that every decision you make is an economic decision. Every decision. Even down to, what you chose to wear to school today. Okay, making choices. So, when you're making choices, you have things to consider. First thing you have to consider is your motivations for those choices. What motivates you to choose one thing over another. Okay, so there's kind of, there's two aspects to making choices. There's the positive side, which is the motivations, and then there's the negative side, which is the cost. Okay, so first thing is incentives. Okay, there are lots of incentives usually to try and choose one thing over another. Okay, so an incentive is something that is done to encourage a specific action, a specific outcome. They want you to choose one thing over another. For example, how many of you work in the food industry? Okay, do you get free food?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, or reduced cost food? Reduced price? Yeah? Okay? That's an incentive because obviously the owner of the restaurant knows that they're paying you peanuts, okay? And that there are a bunch of other places that you could potentially work. Why work there? Well, they want to give you some sort of incentive to actually work there, okay? As well as it's also beneficial to them when a customer comes in and says, hey, how's that pizza? Is it tasting any good? You actually have had first-hand experience and you can actually talk about it. Obviously, your boss does not want you to tell the customer if you hated it, but it's still an incentive. Okay. The other side of this is utility. Okay. Utility is, I know you knew about incentives, and incentives are not a new term for you, but utility probably is. Utility, in this instance, and what economists mean by utility is the personal satisfaction or usefulness you get from a product. Okay, so having utility for a particular product is going to influence you to choose that product. So, for example, utility is going to be different for each person, and it's not you just basically measure it kind of like on a 1 to 10 scale here, but it's different for each person, and it changes over time, okay? For example, who do I think? Joe, how much do you like diamonds? On a scale of 1 to 10, if 10 is the best, most popular thing, how much do you like diamonds on a scale of 1 to 10? A 5? Okay, that's fair. All right. I will say, how about Olivia? On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you like diamonds? 7? Okay. So, now, here's the thing, is that obviously we can make the assumption that the reason that Olivia likes diamonds more than Joe is because she's a girl. That's usually a response. Okay? She's a girl. Okay, so their differences is, in what they actually like and prefer, okay? But over time, it could potentially change. Joe, could you potentially imagine where your utility, your preferences for diamonds would increase? Okay, maybe, right? Okay, potentially, maybe, thinking about that, okay? That could do it. It could change your utility, okay? Now, the other thing I wanted to mention about utility, and I was really kind of disappointed that your book does not mention this, is that the value of things, the value of things to individual people is different depending upon their utility. Okay? Now, most people go around saying, oh, yeah, the value of something is based on the level of scarcity. The more scarce it is, the more valuable it is, right? Would you agree with that? Okay? Think about oil, gas. The more scarce it is, value goes up, right? Okay? Is that always true, though? No. And can you think of an example of when it's not true? When something is scarce, but it has very low value?
What did you say?
Money, when money is scarce, it doesn't have a higher value.
So like, what about like inflation?
We'll get to inflation, but that's part of it is that you have a high. Any other examples of when you would say that there's something that is very scarce but does not have a very high value?
Oh, like a very old car.
A very old car.
Like not like a nice one, the one that
Okay, I can see that. What about this? Here's a good representation example. Original piece of art. Just drink myself right now. It's scarce, one of a kind.
That is beautiful.
Isn't it wonderful?
Very abstract.
See, the commentator sold that for billions.
Now, this is what I'm asking. Anybody want to pay me $50 for it? It's rare, one of a kind. $50 could be yours.
Famous. People who pay money.
It's actually
So,
possible.
here's my point. Why is it that you won't pay me for this?
You're not famous.
That's not very good.
I'm not famous.
We're not interested.
You're not interested, okay? The famousness of it is adding to your utility. You don't care because I can draw this, you can draw that in about 2 minutes, right? I just sat here and drew it myself. The point that I'm trying to make is utility adds to value. The more utility you have for something, the higher the value it is to you, okay? All right, and I don't know, maybe I can finish this before lunch. Oh, there's no such thing as a free lunch.
My mom told me that yesterday.
Really?
Yeah.
What does she mean?
That like no matter what, someone will be paying for the lunch in some way.
Yay! That's right. Okay, here's the thing is that I found this so funny because earlier this week, I gotta tell you, I heard this from another teacher. On Tuesday, they provided breakfast for the teachers in the morning, and then they had leftovers that they just put in the teacher's lounge. And I went down there for lunch, and there was a teacher in there that was, taking some of the leftovers from breakfast and eating it for lunch. And she was saying, she's like, who says there's no such thing as a free lunch? I said, I do. As an economist, I say, never. There is never anything that is actually free because somebody has to pay for it. Okay? There's a monetary cost. Okay? But there's also things that you give up as a result. Okay? Because you chose that, you're giving something else up. Somebody gave me the example of once, so they're like, okay, what about you're in the woods, you find a blackberry bush. They're free, right?
Yeah.
You have to pick them.
Well, yeah, you have to pick them, you have to expend some energy. But you also have to realize that you eat them, the cost is there's not any left for anybody else.
Yeah.
All right, see you after lunch, guys.
It's quite a cost. What if you're